Hello everyone, welcome to the webinar. This is Harish from Altizon Systems and welcome to this joint webinar between Altizon and Cross. To begin with, let me also introduce our panelist Eli Jenkins. Eli is a business development manager from Cross company and he's very focused on the food and beverage market. Carries around 10 plus years of experience from the food and beverage domain, and he will bring on that domain experience on today's webinar. So
thank you, Harish. Glad to be here.
Thanks for joining, Eli. So before we begin, just a quick check. If you have any questions, you can ask those questions through the chat window or the questions window on your right. And we also have a dedicated 5-minute Q&A session at the end of before we end the webinar. So this will be about a 30-minute event with around 25 minutes of presentation followed by a 5-minute Q&A. Topic of the webinar: how does a food and beverage manufacturer transition to smart manufacturing seamlessly and in a short time? And we address those points in today's webinar. So Eli, you've been in this industry for quite a long time, and I'm just curious to know what's the current situation in the industry, in the food and beverage market, and why do most companies view industrial IoT solutions as a large-scale capital project?
There is a unique context around IoT, especially in the industrial market. Generally, they are seen as large-scale projects. So if you kind of think of maybe countrywide logistics manufacturing and tracking all the forklifts and all the shipping receiving plants across the US or any other country, that's how it's viewed to a lot of people. Or it's the almost extreme opposite. It's viewed as connecting the lights in your house and the toaster oven to your cell phone. But that's not quite how it plays in to the industry. There are significant benefits to especially the food and bev industry, but really any industrial manufacturing, to be able to connect things together and generate a database that we can get some sort of helpful, relevant return on investment event to happen from that. The current scenario, especially in terms of food and bev, is customer demands are changing all the time. There's no secret that the marketplace is completely oversaturated, that each company has to find new, bigger, better ways to differentiate themselves. And as innovation is continually and exponentially increasing, that's gonna continue to be the case. So IoT can really step in and provide a model that they can plan, that they can generate data, and they can take actionable results. Of course, here lately, we've been reading all about the safety and FDA regulation changes that's being implemented. A lot of companies do not know how that's going to affect their actual business from the plant floor all the way up. With any sort of new regulation change, you're going to see more recalls, you're going to see more issues found, and IoT is going to allow data to be uniquely tied to those issues for mitigation in the future.
Fantastic. You made a very valid point saying that the IoT is going to allow us to tie in data to any safety events or quality events or downtime and take actions based on that. I completely agree with that. So from an implementation standpoint, from a transition standpoint, and helping companies adapt that change to become more responsive to changing customer demands, what do you see as the major challenges in the industry?
Hands down for me, Cross Company is a process control system integrator. So we're brought in to increase reliability on the industrial control system itself. And in a lot of the food and bev industries that we work with, it's got to be the legacy infrastructure, as you have listed here, the supply chain framework, And generally, because of that older infrastructure of control systems and equipment on the floor, it's fairly modular. There's pieces of equipment all over the plant floor that stand alone. And one of the things we're requested to do is to tie that information together, but that's usually where it stops. It continues at that point to be manual reporting and data tracking and very small scale, small reliability, small accuracy data from that point on. And it really creates segments of data in different areas, right? So maybe if we're talking about uh, a bakery of some sort, one side of the plant will have all their data there, the other side of the plant will have all their data, and there's not much interaction between the two. Even going as far as the engineering side, maybe not just the production, but in engineering, the data that's happening that they're getting is not being communicated to the maintenance department. It's not being communicated to the engineering manager. So downtime is generally almost uncontrolled, and they end up getting planned. The downtime cost usually gets put into the budget instead of eliminated. And that's another area where if you can connect all that data and bring it together, then it's not just a one area thing. You can drastically improve the return. You can drastically improve the efficiency, your OEE, the production capabilities across the plant.
Absolutely, absolutely. Getting that data flow across the plant is very vital to kind of give users an insight on how they can improve asset availability and improve productivity. Very valid point. So, how does a food and beverage or food and beverage manufacturer benefit from IoT solutions, and why should they implement an industrial IoT solution in the first place?
Well, the very first point that I want to make is this gap between OT and IT. Uh, Anyone you talk to in the industry, it's almost a running joke about, how separate those two things are. And just to be clear, IT we tend to see as the administrative top layer, the emails, the intercompany network itself, while OT is the plant floor. It's the production equipment, it's logistics of shipping, receiving, things like that. So we're seeing these things coming together. Physically, in terms of the actual departments are coming together, we're seeing that. When you can combine that data and you can get IT and upper management on the same page as the operators on the floor, then your efficiency really increases. Being able to run audits and to trace out everything that's happened so that you can prevent past mistakes from happening again is very, very important. The maintenance, like we talked about earlier, to be able to predict maybe a failure or predict supply and demand issues going forward is critical information, especially in food and bev. And it's going to allow for more efficient operators, more efficient maintenance personnel. It's going to allow the management to create more efficient schedules for 2-3 years going forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the questions that I frequently get asked is the real-time data actually real-time, and why is the data at the end of the production shift less valuable? So, uh, I mean, the general answer to that is real-time data is of course real-time, and you can analyze it in real time to drive quick operational alerts to minimize the loss. So the actions taken on the real-time data are to minimize the loss or minimize downtime or minimize quality issues. But when we look at the data that's available at the end of the shift or at the end of a defined time frame, maybe end of the month, end of the quarter, end of the week, and so on, that's a batch of data, and that's also important uh, from a learnings perspective. So you can learn from that data, learn from past issues, understand the root causes, and then work on eliminating those root causes of downtime or failure or quality issues. So two parts to it: real-time data to minimize the impact, analyzing real-time data to minimize the impact, and analyzing historical batch data to eliminate impact or eliminate the downtime or quality issues altogether.
I completely agree, Harish, and it led me to think of another question that I get from customers a lot, which speaks to your fourth point there, moving from postmortem to predictive analysis. I get a question of, does predictive analytics or proactive maintenance, does it just mean maintenance on a schedule, and how does that relate to IoT?
It's a great question. I mean, and it's a very common question as well, as you mentioned. So when we look at the scheduled maintenance, which is a planned maintenance, it generally is a time-bound maintenance or based on the number of cycles remaining in that asset or the tool. So it's a time-bound uh, kind of a cycle of maintenance of that asset. When when we look at the uh, the reasons for downtime, what actually we are doing is we are doing a post-mortem analysis of what happened and what were the causes that led to that downtime. Now, over a period of time, when we start collecting data from all of the plant floor assets, along with the understanding of the events that led to downtime, maybe the condition of the asset got deteriorated, or maybe there was some other reason that led to the downtime of the asset. The system, typically an IoT platform, would have a big data analytics engine as well as a machine learning part into it. So the system starts learning from those reasons, and when such similar situations start to occur in future, the system starts predicting those events even before they happen. So we are definitely, with the historical data and the learnings, we are able to move from a post-mortem analysis to a more predictive analysis where we can predict future events even before they happen and work on eliminating those downtimes or quality issues and improve productivity. So it is definitely a maintenance on schedule, but it's a planned maintenance on schedule after looking at data, historical data, and learning from it, and then planning for that maintenance to eliminate that downtime.
Can that also play into production schedules? So if I have customers that shut down equipment for weeks to months at sometimes because the demand is low, and then possibly out of nowhere or earlier than expected, an order comes in, and now they don't have enough time to be able to meet that production schedule, how could an IoT solution help them?
Yeah, yeah, great question again. So the fundamental aspect of industrial IoT is one is collecting data from every aspect of the plant floor that makes impact on the productivity, that makes impact on the efficiency at which you are shipping products out of the door, and also tracking that data to bring more predictability in your entire manufacturing process. So once we start collecting that data and start automating that data collection and analysis, we get insights on the trends in regards to the customer order by season, by geography, by product range. We also have trends on the efficiency, the productivity, and so on. And when we start correlating that data, we are ready to serve any upsurge in the order. So your entire simulation, production planning and scheduling and simulation is more predictive with all that data in the backend. So this is how we can leverage the data from the industrial IoT platform when we implement it and start collecting that data to bring more predictability in production planning and scheduling uh, by running some simulations based on that real-time data and being ready for all the upsurge in the orders. So the other aspect that I'd also like to highlight is with all that data, your decisions are much faster. The automated analytics gives you much more detailed insights to take those decisions much more quickly rather than doing manual analysis. So that's how you can be ready to meet those changing customer demands and rapidly adapt and deliver as per the requirements of the situation. So I'd like to uh, take a cue from this question and quickly cover an example or a case study where we worked with a leading fruit beverage manufacturer. And when we started the engagement, the situation was like a typical uh, food and beverage manufacturer who has just understood the importance of having that data in place to kind of take them to a next level. So the situation was they had a variety of systems on the plant floor, different machines from different manufacturers with different control systems. Again, a bouquet of communication protocols. The plant had grown over a period of time, so some lines were more legacy assets, some lines were more modern, and that was a challenge in itself in a data collection from a data collection standpoint. So you had information silos on the plant floor, and there was no real interaction amongst different departments within the organization. So most of the data collection was manual, and the reporting was Excel based, wherein the teams were spending huge amount of time collecting that data, analyzing that data, and then moving towards making a decision. So it was a huge amount of time spent before a decision was made, and in that case, they were realizing that there are some opportunities that they're losing from an improvement standpoint. And as you rightly mentioned, this is one of the biggest challenge of any food and beverage manufacturer, collecting and analyzing that data as quickly as possible. The other aspect is from a downstream connectivity standpoint, wherein you have your ERPs, you have your warehouse management systems, you have your lab information management systems, and there was no real communication between the actual production data with all of these systems. So the situation was the sales team had to wait till the end of the day when the production booking was done to place a sales order or to raise a work order on the next production plan. So in that resulted in delays in fulfilling the customer orders. So that was another major challenge. No real-time visibility whatsoever on the production process or the work in progress inventory. So again, the major challenge was siloed pieces of information. Warehouse operated in its own silo, the ERP was in its own silo, and the manufacturing was in its own silo. And with that lack of coordination, they could also not predict any of the seasonal demands, any of the changes in customer demands, and they were always lagging behind the production or fulfillment. So that was the situation when we went in. We did form a cross-functional team of different departments because it's really a project where IT and OT need to work together hand in hand to make the project a success. And the solution that we implemented is we connected plant floor assets, filling lines, the actual processing lines, we integrated with the raw material warehouse data, we integrated with the finished good line and the finished good warehouse data, brought in data from the local SCADA historian and the lab information management system for quality traceability. That's another important area where the food and beverage manufacturers need end-to-end traceability from a quality perspective and safety perspective to comply with those regulatory standards. So this data that was collected from the plant floor was brought onto the edge for edge analytics to drive some real-time operational alerts, again, to minimize the impact or minimize the loss. And further, the data was brought onto the IoT platform, a cloud-based IoT platform, to leverage the power of the cloud to really process that huge amount of data and start giving them more actionable insights from a predictive maintenance standpoint or predictive quality standpoint. And that really brought in the change that was desired in terms of eliminating the root causes of downtime or eliminating the root cause of lack of coordination between different entities in the plant. So that was a brief overview of the solution that we put in. But the real impact was when we integrated this data with other downstream systems like ERP. Now, with this integration, the sales team had real-time insights into work in progress inventory, and they need not wait till the end of the day for the production managers to book production and then book work orders. They could book work orders by looking at the finished good inventory as well as the work in progress inventory. And the biggest change that happened in that particular company is no order was double booked because of lack of visibility. And that also improved their top line revenue. Similarly, integration with warehouse and the reefer vehicles, if you will, in this because the beverages had to be maintained at a certain temperature, and they could get those insights on the shipment data if the temperature in the reefer vehicles was also maintained at the desired level during the entire shipment. So in a way, the IoT project just starts with the production process, but it can grow into a complete digital transformation journey for any food and bev manufacturer, wherein they can have an end-to-end traceability right from the farm to the shelf. And an industrial IoT platform helps them transition to a real smart manufacturing process with that end-to-end traceability across the manufacturing process.
Now, talking about the data, we're talking about raw data that's going to be analyzed either on the edge or in the cloud, I believe is how I understood that you said that. Does it matter what the platform is? Does it matter what those field devices are, what their communication protocols are for it to pull data? And I mean that generally. I mean, obviously there may always be something that you can't get data from, but if there is a communication protocol, how easy is it to get it into the cloud, and what steps should a company take next to be able to start transitioning to that smart manufacturing?
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you asked this question because that's where the confusion starts. You have a huge amount of assets, a huge variety of assets, in fact, huge variety of control systems and communication protocols. And it's important for any industrial IoT platform to be able to plug into any of the asset on the plant floor, because the essence of IoT is to be able to collect that data and bring it on a common platform for further analysis. So it's important that the platform can talk different protocols. The most common ones, of course, Modbus TCP, OPC UA, MT Connect, and so on, or communicate with any of the traditional operational technology like historians or SCADA or MES system. So aggregating that data from multiple plant floor assets or multiple plant floor systems, getting onto a cloud is a vital part of any IoT platform. Uh, of course, as you mentioned, edge analysis, that's a way to kind of drive quick operational alerts from a maintenance standpoint or from a quality standpoint. Analyzing data on the cloud helps us with those predictive insights, predictive analysis for prescriptive actions. And then you have integrations with the web layer, which helps you establish that seamless data chain right from the plant floor asset to your business layer, like ERP or maybe your scheduling and planning tools, or maybe your maintenance systems, and so on. So if someone has to start with an industrial IoT or Industry 4.0 or smart manufacturing journey, essentially the first step is establishing that connectivity with plant floor assets and automating that data acquisition. That's the first step that someone needs to take. And only then, when you have data on a common platform, you can start analyzing that data to drive your continuous improvement initiatives or drive your quality improvement initiatives or productivity improvement initiatives. So the second phase would be analyzing that data that's been acquired from the plant floor to for operational KPIs and alerting, again, to minimize the impact. And I'm highlighting this term minimize. That's the exact thing that needs to be done with the real-time data that's being collected. And the third phase would be analyzing that historical data to start predicting outcomes over a period of time to eliminate the impact of downtime or quality issues, or eliminate the reasons for downtime and quality issues, to put it rightly. And the fourth phase would be integration with the other business systems, which then helps you have that end-to-end connectivity established from a digital transformation perspective. So this is a brief overview of the roadmap for any food and bev manufacturer to transition to smart manufacturing in a quick way.
Harish, one of the reasons that I agreed to come on and ask questions and answer questions with this is I see this as a very relevant solution to many of my customers, and not just relevant, but I see it as quickly generating a return on the investment, and most likely, depending on the situation, paying for itself very quickly. So thank you for sharing this with me and letting me be a part of your presentation.
Hey Eli, it was a pleasure to host you and learn from you, learn from your domain experience on what are the critical challenges and how the industry is shaping up and how IoT can make that change happen. So thanks so much for joining the session. So I'll open this for the audience. If any one of you have any questions, we'll be happy to cover that in next couple of minutes. So we have one question that has come up is where is the edge analysis done, or how is the edge analysis done? So uh, Eli, I'll take that question from a platform perspective. So edge is essentially a device at the end of your PLAN network that connects to assets on the PLAN network as well as connects to a IoT platform on internet. So it's the edge, it's the device that's sitting right on the edge of your PLAN network. Now you have an edge analysis software that runs on that edge device, which can analyze the real-time streaming data from your plant floor assets. And you can also have some analytics engine on that edge device to start analyzing that data and giving you insights from an operational alert perspective or a condition-based alert perspective from a condition-based maintenance standpoint or a consumption perspective as well. So that's essentially where the edge analysis happens. So one of the questions that has come up again is, so do you help with network architecture reviews and planning to ensure security of various systems? And I'm glad this question came up. We definitely help with the reviews of your network architecture and in planning the entire infrastructure to help you transition to smart manufacturing. So certainly feel free to reach out to us after the webinar, and we'll be happy to help you with that. And I would like to continue answering this question by highlighting one fact is all the attendees of today's session definitely get a record of this webinar session, but also stand a chance to have a free IoT consulting session at their office. So feel free to reach out to us after the session and we'll be glad to visit and conduct a free IoT consulting session uh, at your office. So the other question is, what are the benefits realized by that fruit beverage manufacturer after implementing, and what was the typical time frame in the realization of those benefits? Again, a very pointed question, and I'm glad this question came up. I'll just switch back to the previous slide for that. So the biggest challenge was the data silos that were on the plant floor, and with industrial IoT, they could eliminate those data silos or information islands, if you will, and that helped them get data on a common platform to analyze the data from the source of truth, which sped up their decisions from a continuous improvement perspective, helped them have that end-to-end traceability from a process perspective as well. And with all that insights, they were able to minimize downtime, minimize loss and waste on the plant floor, and that resulted in OE improvements. One of the biggest impact that they had, or the biggest benefit that they saw, is reduction in huge amount of indirect cost. So manual data collection, manual analysis of data, all of that is a huge indirect cost for the company. And by automating that using an industrial IoT technology, you're essentially eliminating that indirect cost and focusing efforts on more proactive measures to improve productivity and quality. So that's the summary of the benefits that they achieved. And typically 8 to 9 months is the time frame for a medium to large enterprise to see the return or start seeing the return on their investment on an industrial IoT perspective. So we have more questions coming in, but I also have to keep a check on time. So in the interest of time, we'll conclude today's session. We will respond to all the questions that have been raised offline, and please keep your email inbox handy, and you'll have an answer from us pretty soon. So I would like to thank everyone for joining today's session. It was a pleasure interacting with you all, and special thanks to Eli and team for being a part of today's session and sharing your expertise from the food and bev industry. Thank you so much, everyone. You have a great day. Take care. Bye bye.